So, I think I mentioned in my year end last year when I picked Plane because I hadn't seen Godzilla yet. But when I picked Plane, I think what I said was every so often a movie comes along that you have like zero expectations of that knocks you on your butt just because it's so well executed. And this movie is now on my short list for best movie I'm going to watch this year.
Wow.
Um, I fucking like so I started this a little late, like later than I like to, and I was like, oh man, like I'm looking at the clock going, all right, maybe this ends up having to split into two nights. By about 25 minutes into it, I'm wide awake, and by the end of the movie, I am like this far from the screen.
Yeah.
Coherence 2
Oh,
is
Coherence too. Thank you for
quite,
bringing that up.
quite fucking excellent.
Yeah.
It's funny. So this is Malcolm McDowell's
Is
kid.
Coherence the one with the seance and the markers?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Malcolm McDowell's and Mary Steenburgen, their son made this, and I'd like to think that
I didn't know that.
that son watched Nicholas Meyer's time after time a great deal because this movie.
Oh, absolutely.
This movie is, I love the idea this movie looks like it cost no money. It was shot at their house.
No, it was shot at
Ted Danson,
not Mel McDowell's house. She's since divorced and married Ted
well,
Danson.
but
Ted Danson's house.
Yeah, but Ted Danson is now with Mary Steenburgen.
Yeah, exactly. So, and man,
and Steenburgen does a voiceover, right?
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
And Ted's their therapist.
What I loved about this was what I loved about that.
I can only see the bad place or the good place.
Yeah, it made me think of the good place for sure.
I don't even know how you categorize this fucking movie because it's a little bit of rom-com, it's a little bit of sci-fi. But it kept what I loved is that it, like all great indie sci-fi movies, it tees up an idea and then just like where can we take this idea? And at no point did I know where this is going. I was constantly surprised by, oh yeah, of course, this is the guy who would pretend to be his double and see where that goes. Like,
so he could sleep with his wife.
He kept coming up with interesting ways. Like, okay, so here's this concept. Where would they go with it? And it was consistently surprising to me. And, I like both of these actors and other things. I thought they were great here. I found out that apparently it's mostly improvised. Like they had a rough outline, but like a lot of
the dialogue chunks are improvised. The thing is,
they're both that good.
Yeah, they're given the setup.
I mean, Mark comes from a very improvisational world of.
I will watch this again. I will recommend this movie to other people. If I have two criticisms, they're both extremely minor. One of which is they veer dangerously close to explaining this at a certain point. They wisely veer away, but I'm like, you don't need to explain where the clones came from.
No, they get close, but they never. There's never
really.
There's no.
I was worried about
that. No one cares. It's not.
No one cares. Don't need expository dialogue at all.
I almost thought maybe it made a misstep just with the files on the computer.
Yeah.
Oh no,
maybe that's too much.
No, that's different though. But I'll get that in a sec. But Jim,
to wrap up, like I would argue that the soundtrack, which veers dangerously close to like sideways level piano tinkling, it's almost like the soundtrack is there to kind of keep things buoyant. When I actually thought it could have been less buoyant.
Yeah,
but it's like so minor. Like this is a 4-star movie for me. I fucking never heard of it. I loved every bit of it. Like I said, Jared, on my short list for best of 2024 on this show.
A quick thing about the soundtrack before I hand over to Jim, because he has the other quarter on the table, is that the soundtrack, I think, lulls you into thinking this is kind of like a low-budget rom-com.
Yes.
That's the thing. First 20 minutes of the film, you're like, oh, this is delightful. They're going to try to fix their relationship in this cute place. Everything's perfect and in place. Then the weird shit starts happening and the music keeps going like that. And it grinds your brain. It's great. All right.
It bugged me a little bit.
It's like this now.
Yes, it does. Exactly.
It starts to, it's almost like antithetical or whatever. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
It's like a little.
It becomes a dialectic, basically.
A counterpoint. Yeah.
All right, Jim is waiting patiently.
Don, you have a lot of new thinking about watching this?
Sure, both of these films.
Oh, fuck yeah.
Just a little bit off from where they were.
Mm-hmm.
Just 5%.
Yeah.
Right?
Same year too, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
Jim.
Yeah, it was a roller coaster for me. I wasn't so interested at the beginning, and then the acting sort of drew me in. And but then like halfway through, or maybe 2/3 of the way through, I started my interest started flagging, especially when it looked like they were going to have some sort of ontological explanation for what the fuck was going on, rather than these people just show up. For a minute, I thought it was going to go the seconds route, that they
Right.
were,
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
they were, they'd been cloned by the evil Ted Danson.
Which could be
But,
correct.
it could be.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah. So overall, I enjoyed it, but it had moments of, I guess, part of my problem with it just was the story did seem a little too improvised. Maybe the story
It did have a
itself,
rambling feel to it.
not the
Yeah.
yeah. It had a ramble sort of
Yeah.
feel, but luckily it was only about 90 minutes long.
That's
So
big
Yeah.
blessing. For
You
me,
take
it's
a
like,
ramble.
okay,
Short
I
ramble.
sat down to watch this thing. I talked to Eileen into watching it with me. She said, "Hey, is it Elizabeth Moss in it? It's gonna be fun." And so
yeah,
you're like, she kind of like came on, like, "Oh, we'll watch it." And then we're like, just like Chris, after like 15 minutes like this, and at the end, noses on screen, man. It was like we couldn't.
They nailed that
she-
landing.
Not only did she love this film even more than I did, she understood it better than I did. She explained to me when it was over. It's like, oh no, that's these doubles, and this is what's happening with these two doubles, and it's like, wow.
Chris,
So-
I'm glad you mentioned nailing the landing, because that ending shot is of just him sitting on the bed, like thinking.
It's the bacon. It's
Oh,
the
shit.
fucking
It's the
bacon,
bacon.
dude.
It's like,
Bacon.
The wrong one.
and I'm like,
Although
maybe
it's-
she's just giving him a break and cooking him some bacon. But
Well,
maybe
yeah.
not.
Well, let's add a positive question.
maybe there's a third.
The doppelgangers can't leave the property, right?
Oh, I thought they could leave
No,
together, but they can't
only
leave
one of
separate.
them can. Only one.
No,
of them
I think they can leave with an original.
Right.
Okay, so that's I'm thinking that's what happened, right? So they
Original
call the-
Moss is still back there with the guy she likes better
Oh,
anyway.
actually, and
I
I'm
liked it better anyway.
on Wikipedia they called it Sophie 1 and Sophie 2, and then Ethan
Yeah.
1 and Ethan 2.
Yeah.
All
So I think what happened at the end is that Ethan 1 ended up with Sophie 2.
yes,
Correct.
Yeah, and
He
that-
took the
it-
wrong.
Quick
Well, they're in the
name.
they're in the driveway, and he's like, "Fuck!" He doesn't know which one is which.
I
Yeah,
know.
and it's just the
'Cause they're-
expressions on their faces that makes him choose one of them.
That's right.
Yeah.
And the whole idea about Ethan 1 pretending to be Ethan 2 by taking his glasses off and messing his hair up. Oh my god.
That's so fun. I mean,
That was fun.
this movie's fun, and it's like takes the goofy sort of Twilight Zone premise and
mhm.
just like you said, runs with it and has a lot of fun with it. And again, yes, I was thinking about the other movie same way. It's like, how creative can you get with a small cast in a one house location? And these two movies proves that you can make really good movies that way.
Yes.
This,
It never
that's
felt
part of
tired or
why
claustrophobic at all. It was always interesting. They always had a nice
Bright
angles on
sunny in
things.
there.
I like. It's part of why I chose both these movies. John, was kind of for you and for me.
Yeah.
Just as, because I think that we'll keep going, and I can talk a little bit later. But they are. You're exactly right. They're great examples of a lot that you can do with very little. And if you're trying to make a small film, these are great examples.
For
Also,
sure.
for what it's worth, the effects were really good.
Yeah,
One of those films that looks low budget, but actually probably they spent some bucks on the effects.
but
Because
Well, yeah,
there are a
'cause
lot
a
of
lot
like
of
double
it's
reveals like
handheld.
there that were not easy to do.
They're doing.
Yeah, when they're
their
having dinner at the
double
table,
scenes
it was
handheld.
pretty
Yeah.
pretty
Just
rad.
the reveal when they walk in to see him, it's behind Ethan 1. You can't
And, yeah.
around him to see Ethan 2.
And some of it's just with actor
But the thing
doubles,
is,
but
it was the shot was
Right.
the shot was handheld.
it's smoothly
not
done.
easy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
That's
actually
like-
think that the margin, but like, so Ethan 1 and Ethan 2, the difference, the immediate difference you notice is the glasses, but the subtlety between Ethan 1 and Ethan 2 compared to Sophie 1 and 2, like
Mhm.
Sophie 1 and 2 are like two totally different people.
Yeah.
Ethan
Yeah,
1 and 2 is like just a tweak.
That scene with the two of them, the two women at the kitchen sink, and she's doing the dishes.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Oh yeah.
That's like where it's not a rom-com at all. It's just like
Yes, that gets a little chilling. Yes, that's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
The
I think-
idea that the relationship between the two couples is kind of like these are two couples. And
Right.
so another thing I did not see coming is when it looks like they might pair off, Sophie too gets pissed.
Oh yeah.
Mhm.
Don't steal my boyfriend. Like
Well,
that was just fucking clever.
Well, it's a question of the goals of the couples. Sophie 1 and Ethan 1 came in there to try to fix their relationship on the recommendation of Ted Danson, and so they go there with this goal in mind. But Sophie 1 and Sophie 2 and Ethan 2 are there to break them up.
Yes.
Yes, and in fact, that they find that tape of them learning how to imitate them and calling all their friends like that.
That was where I was like, wait, what? No.
They're calling all they're getting a hold of their friends and trying to learn what their backstory so they can imitate them.
That part was fine. It was when they would go.
They're trying to escape.
The vocals,
and break them up.
That was the part I was like, wait.
Well, that's the way they can escape. The only way they can.
Westworld territory, and it was like not important.
Oh, also a little bit of a Stepford Wives format too.
Yeah.
I mean, like,
but here's the thing: it's
well,
like,
I mean, the reason behind that is because they are the ones who were the last couple.
Yep.
Which is like, how come they look identical to this couple? We don't understand how that takes place.
Are they
hand waving?
Yes, it's hand
Well, yeah,
waving.
it doesn't
ultimately it doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
We never see the maturation tanks in the basement that are made.
Yeah, right. Yeah. It sounds like a shtick from an episode of Rick and Morty almost.
They didn't show that. if they'd gone,
it did actually, because I started watching season 6 of Rick and Morty. They're sort of blending in my head.
Yeah. I wanted to say real quick, Scott, because you said that their mission is to of Sophie and what's his name?
Ethan.
Sophie and Ethan 2 are there to
2.
break up Sophie and Ethan 1. Yeah. I didn't think of it that way because to me it was like whatever the sci-fi concept or the metaphysical concept as it's making this happen. I thought what this movie was sort of about is about the person you fall in love with versus the person you find yourself married to.
Yes.
Well,
that's what the movie's about. And that guy in the house.
Yeah,
is but the guy she married. That's the guy who's so much fun.
But that's a different layer. Yes. That's what I'm talking about.
Well, right. I think the core of this movie, John, you nailed it. But Scott, you're not wrong either, right?
Yeah, I know. But there's different layers of what's going on.
Yeah, this movie is about therapy. I mean, this is one of the most interesting movies I've ever seen about actual
metaphor for therapy.
Yeah, about relationships, about what it means to be married and what it means to be in a couple and how you change and that you want that old spark again.
Right.
You can't get it anymore.
Yeah.
Ethan 2 is who she wishes Ethan 1 was more like.
And Sophie too, same thing. Yeah, it's like they always want to. They see their ideal. They're idealized. The Sophie and Ethan too.
Right.
They're no glasses and they're friendly and outgoing and he wants to have sex.
And it occurred to me it would have been an interesting path to take. The film didn't take this path, but it would have been interesting if they had paired off with each other, and then ultimately become disappointed with the new versions because meeting somebody and that exhilaration is gonna fade. And it's like at some point Ethan 2 is gonna say something shitty, he's gonna be a dick, he's gonna be tired, and he won't be this charming guy that she is into.
Yeah.
This is the blessing of a 90-minute running time. That's the blessing of it. No second guessing. You got a short running time, so you don't get a chance to go and redo anything in this one.
That's for sure.
John, I felt like the third act, I starting to see cracks in particularly like Ethan 2 was starting to come off like a dick.
Yeah, he was.
She was starting to notice it a little more.
Right.
Just enough that you like, okay.
Yeah. So you're not wrong, John.
Gone down that route, but like,
so
there's a hint of it there.
He starts becoming someone who's pushing too hard. It's like that person that's like me more.
Well, also the other layer we talked about, like these guys, their goals, and we're talking about the idealized thing. The other thing is that these guys want to get out. Ethan 2 and Sophie 2 want to get out of there, and that's they're probably
so they start pushing.
But it's to their advantage to
charming to get the way they want by being kind of pushy and obnoxious.
Be charming.
Yeah. So which is not. Which doesn't work on Ethan and Sophie 1.
Also, no one swam in that lovely pool. I'm disappointed. It's so nice.
That beautiful location. Beautiful
that place was astounding. It was just so beautiful.
That's Ted Danson's house.
I know, in Ojai. Yeah. Good stuff.
No, I
think they missed a real thing here. If they'd had a bigger budget, they could have crossed, this Twilight episode with Twilight Zone episode with say Groundhog Day, where you could build up the time that they're going to be stuck together.
That's not bad. I like the whole I like the whole
right. Keep restarting the relationship.
I like the whole like what was it like 20-minute rule and they're like waiting, you know? Like,
Yeah, pretty
like,
much.
hey, you were in there for like a long time.
That didn't work
No,
one time. They
when
made an
started
agreement and
laying
they
down
broke it
ground
immediately.
rules, when they started laying down the ground rules, and
That
then
was
for the
funny.
next 10 minutes they were fucking around with the ground, like each
Yeah.
one of them is like, how far can I push the ground rules?
Yeah.
Like, no, again, it's just like you set up the concept. There's a bungalow and a house that you stay at, but then an Airbnb you stay at for the weekend that has idealized versions of your partner in it.
Right.
What happened?
Yeah,
And
exactly.
whoever wrote this, and I didn't bother to look up and see if they'd done anything else. Like they really did. Like let's try to cover off as many of those as we can in an hour and 20 minutes.
Right.
It's somebody named Justin Ladder, but I don't know him, but it is really smart. And I remember seeing this in the theater with who I was dating at the time, and I'm always on the lookout for, John knows this, but like all my first early works are relationship movies, they're exploring, write what you know, right? So I just wrote like what it's like to be in a relationship whenever I could. And I was just so taken with how clever this movie was, how extremely well acted it is, especially Elizabeth Moss. I mean, we all know she's great, but she's on fire here.
Oh, she definitely she ran with it, man. It's great.
And just it is more complex than it seems on the surface a little bit. It's got a great, there's a lot to love here, and I think that I think it's more sophisticated than it seems in terms of like, let's examine a couple, what it's like to have struggles, put them in therapy. What does that mean? Coming up with sort of a weird sci-fi bent to explore that. I thought it was so creative. And usually I'm so disappointed. I'm sure we all sort of are when you go and you see sort of not a rom-com, but just a romance movie, like an adult movie about love.
Mm-hmm.
Usually pretty disappointing for the most part when you go to the movies or you rent one or you stream one. And this was the opposite experience for me when I walked out of the theater. And so I never forgot it. And I don't know, I've probably seen it like
I
4
never
or 5
heard of it,
times.
man. And it's funny because it came out about 10 or 11 months after Coherence.
Yeah.
Wow. And they're both really similar. Like,
I guess
again,
they're kind of working the same ideas back then.
Micro budget versions of characters. And I mean, obviously Coherence goes this way and this movie goes the other way, but I think it make a great double bill.
I love Coherence too, but this movie obviously looks a lot better.
There's also there's one scene I would have rewritten in this one at the very end so I guess Ethan 1 and Sophie 2 get out and they go to Ted Danson's office and it's abandoned.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I kind of wish it was actually not abandoned. He was there and just handed him a bill or something like that. That's the thing that was missing. That's like,
I like it.
That makes it the whole bit.
You're welcome.
Exactly.
So Jared, you should watch. It's a bit of an old timey movie, but it's one of the better romantic movies that I can think of. Is Brief Encounter. Takes place during World War II.
Oh,
awesome. Coward, right?
Yeah, Noel Coward.
Yeah.
Wrote
he's the playwright. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Trevor Howard, or maybe Richardson, some handsome Brit.
All right.
Yeah. Okay. Brief Encounter.
I think we're ready for thumbs at this point. I think.
I liked it a lot.
Two of these.
Way up.
Because one for me, one for Eileen. We both love this film. Well done, man.
Yeah, good pick. It's fun.